You're listening to 87.1 Caroline Radio, KCGN Bakersfield, your home for all your variety hits, just like the Aaron's Opinion podcast. Welcome back, listener. How are you? I'm glad you had a good week. Tonight, we have a very special guest joining us, someone who I found out about recently, who has a great podcast called The Blind Grilling Experience. His name is Chris Peltz. He encourages blind people to, well, do a lot of grilling and be independent in the kitchen and successful in their lives. Welcome, Chris. How are you doing this evening?
Man, I am happier than a blue tick hound with his head out the window driving down the road.
I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. So, um, I was listening to some of your content, and I forget precisely how you became blind. I will tell you that for you listeners, you already know this, but for Chris, I'll tell you that I was born blind with glaucoma. I've been blind my whole life. I'm 28 years old, uh, and I'm a teacher by trade. By my day job is a teacher, and I got into podcasting because I felt that there are not enough strong podcasts for blind people around the world to talk about critical issues in the blindness community. So, I had so many complaints with the options. I thought, well, if I want to complain about podcasts, why don't I start my own podcast? It started in last fall, and I did a lot of monologues, and only very recently have I transitioned, into Apple, the radio stations, and then doing so much, guesting and all of that. It's really taken off from here. So my question to you is how did you get into the grilling, and tell us about your interest in cooking and food. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I've been grilling since I was a little kid. I grew up on a farm in Missouri, and it was just something that was pretty natural, for us to do. We did a lot of cooking outside, and then after growing up and leaving home, it was just something I continued to do. But I started losing my sight when I was 10 years old. I have retinitis pigmentosa, so RP.
Got it, got
And
it.
and so, I lost quite a bit of my sight, 80%, in fact, from age 10 to 16. So, by the time I was 16, definitely legally blind and just small tunnel vision. And then I'm 45 now, and about 13 years ago, I lost all usable vision. But
Right, right.
but I just love cooking. It's something that I've always done. I've always had a passion for. I love to eat. If anyone could see me, they could tell that right off the bat.
Oh,
So
I love to eat too. In fact, just before I came into my studio, I was eating some schnitzel and kasha. So I love to eat too.
yeah,
Definitely,
absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah.
Do you love schnitzel and kasha?
Schnitzel, but not the not the kasha.
Not the kasha. Well, okay then. Well,
No,
okay. All right. Well, geez. Fine. You fine. You don't get any kasha then.
that's right.
God. Jeez. All right. Well, I must. Nothing. No. Okay. Th-
Yeah.
This. This is what. This is what. See. This is why I have this podcast, because honestly, I just. This just. Put it simply, this just makes me happy talking to people all over the world.
Right.
And it's those types of answers that just, God, you got to write that stuff down. Isn't it great that we're being recorded so that we don't have to remember?
Yeah.
Did that guy Chris Peltz from Blind Grilling tell Aaron Richmond that he won't eat kasha? Well, you're going to deny it years from now. I'm going to make sure that we have this recording now. You aren't going to be
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
that guy that won't eat kasha. All right, you fine. You won't eat kasha. Well, you know what? That's fascinating. As far as your vision loss goes, I must tell you from the bottom of my heart that from a philosophical standpoint, I was interviewing a guest a few weeks ago. If you've been following my show, he was a retired correctional officer at a prison, and now he's blind. That was a fascinating and disturbing conversation. But
Mhm.
one of the things that he said is that when you lose your vision later on in life, it's really a different type of experience, and that's an experience that I cannot comprehend because I was born blind. I never had to deal with the loss. So all I can say is I really do not understand at all philosophically how challenging that must have been to be losing your vision in secondary school in those critical years of a teenager. That must have been just really I mean, I cannot imagine. But
Well, and I'm in the same boat as you in that respect when it comes to someone like your previous guest who, as an adult, suddenly lost their sight. I can't imagine that and don't know what that would be like because
right.
going into adulthood, I knew that my sight was going. It was bad to begin with. And,
Okay. I
you
said,
know,
got you. Yeah, I see your point, but to me, it's kind of this. It's kind of similar because you both lost your vision later on in life.
yeah,
But
that's
but
true.
no, that's a good point that you lost your. That's a very good distinction. You lost your vision as a child, and he lost his vision as an adult. But either way, that must be immensely. That must be really. That must be bizarre. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so when you get on the grill, what's your favorite meal? Okay, now don't give me kasha. I know I'm not getting kasha, but
That's right.
what am I
Uh,
getting if I came over and you grilled something? What's on the menu?
my favorite thing is brisket
Oh
for
yeah,
sure. Yeah, it's got to be brisket. I'm not big on pork altogether, but a good ribs and pulled pork obviously is a staple. But I do a lot of burgers. I do a lot of steaks and a lot of brisket. But I usually smoke just about everything. So it's not necessarily a hot and fast grill situation that even though we do some of that, and I'll do some of that, but generally I do a little bit lower and slower, smokehouse style food. Even with my burgers, I'll do a smokehouse burger and, just really low and slow heat and take my time. And yeah, that's probably my favorite though is brisket.
brisket. All right, excellent. And what are your sides?
That is there's so many that's kind of a tough one. Obviously potatoes. I mean, steak and potatoes is kind of a staple anyway, but double baked, or rather stuffed, double smoked baked
Twice
potatoes.
twice baked. Yeah, yeah, twice baked.
So yeah, and then we do a lot of asparagus. We do a lot of casseroles, baked macaroni, or smoked macaroni and cheese.
Mmm.
So we do pizzas as well. That's a little bit higher heat, but we'll do pizzas or even breads. Everything, and really my approach to grilling has been if you can do it inside, I can do it outside on the grill. And that's been my approach. If somebody cooks something inside, I want, and I take that challenge and I take it outside and I do it on the grill. And so far, with very few exceptions, I've been extremely pleased with the results.
Hmm. Really good. And I'm just curious, what have been some interesting exceptions that you've had where maybe some certain thing didn't really turn out or it didn't really work? That's kind of interesting to think about that. What would you say?
Well, I personally haven't had much luck with cookies. So on the grill, and on the stones. I mean, I've been able to do some cookies, but I also use a Himalayan salt stone, and that's where my epic fail was with using the Himalayan salt stone and trying to cook cookies on that. Cheesecake is one that I've almost got it down, but it absorbs a lot of smoke, and if you're not careful, it's too much, and
Hmm.
and that doesn't work too well. Although I do have a cheesecake dumpling recipe that I do at
Whoa.
competitions,
Whoa.
and it's a big hit. It goes over well. It tastes amazing. But
I love cheese. I'm gonna have to get this recipe. I love cheesecake.
oh yeah, yeah, it's an amazing, and it's super easy. It's super easy. It's amazing, and
Hmm.
it does well. But just a regular, straightforward, cheesecake that you would bake, it absorbs so much smoke that it's almost unedible if you're not careful.
Hmm. I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. I think a cheesecake though with a little bit of that smoky texture, especially on the crust, a tiny bit of it, that would kind of appeal to me as someone who
Hmm.
loves cheesecake. But I certainly see what you're saying. If it absorbs too much of the fumes and smoke from the grill, um, that would be that would certainly be not really. not really
Yeah.
edible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not appealing. Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful with it.
Certain food just doesn't really lend itself to that. Cheesecake is a baked good, and
Yep.
so that is more of a bakery. It's interesting because in talking to you, we basically can say that you're one of the things you do is to try to combine a bakery and a barbecue at the same time, which would be that. So that's
Yep.
the cheesecake on the grill would be the combination of a bakery and a barbecue. So
Yeah.
that's really fascinating.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
and so specifically, what what technology have you found to be the most accessible for blind people in the culinary field here?
So talking thermometers
Mm-hmm.
are something that I use constantly. So using a talking thermometer is something that I do every day. But also there's a controller in a company that's called Flameboss, who's out of Florida, and they created this controller for ceramic grills. And this controller connects to the grill. It connects through Wi-Fi, and it's got a fan and it's got probes. You can monitor your temperature of not only your pit but also your food. And if you want to raise the temperature of the pit, through your iPhone or your Amazon device, you can just tell it, to tell Flameboss to raise the temperature or lower the temperature, and it adjusts the fan speed so that it controls the airflow to your fire. And being able to do that has really opened up the world, because for a long time in my cooking I was always asking my kids or my wife to come out and check the temperature, because I did want to pay attention to the temperature of my pit. and and when this device came along, being completely accessible, and actually it was partially accessible at first. I contacted them and asked them if it was accessible, and they said, let's send you one and you tell us. And so I got it, and I got back with them, said, this is what works, this is what doesn't work. And they revamped everything to make sure that it would work for the blind and visually impaired. And
Wonderful, so good, so good.
yeah, it is. And so they're an awesome company for that respect. But that's probably my biggest tool that I use, other than the grill itself. And the grill itself is somewhat unique for being able to use it for someone who's blind or visually impaired, because I use the Big Green Egg, which is a ceramic grill and fairly popular and well-known grill. And the reason that I use the ceramic grill is because not only does it insulate so well, but I can be cooking at 350, 400 degrees, or even 500 degrees, and I can touch the outside of the grill and not burn myself.
Mm.
It'll be warm, it'll be hot, and I can't just lean on it and stay there, but I can feel around the grill, I can touch the grill, and I'm not burning myself. And that was really a game changer for me, going from a metal grill where I was so quick and leaving, always burning myself, leaving skin behind if I wasn't careful, to something where I could just be very myself, and just feel around where things are and actually touch the grill in the middle of a cook and not have to worry about burning myself.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. Yeah, those grills can get extraordinarily hot. So
Yeah.
how now how is it designed though? How is it possible for you to be able to just you know touch the outside shell of the grill without burning yourself? That's really cool. How's that even possible?
Yeah. Well, it's ceramic, so it's not a metal
Mm.
grill, so it's all ceramic. And it's in the Kamado or Kamado class of grills, which are from Japan, and they're all made out of ceramics, and they retain the heat, and they're very well insulated just for the fact that they're ceramic. But so when you reach and touch the outside of that grill, you're not touching a metal grill that's transferring heat constantly from inside to out. You're touching this ceramic piece of material that, again, it's hot, but it's not going to burn you.
Right. Interesting. All right. So what was the most advanced competition that you have participated in, or perhaps the most